all the representatives of the Central Eastern European region in this intersessional process consultation. And of course, thank you to all for joining this meeting and responding to the invitation for this virtual briefing on the process for preparing the non-papers by our respected co-chairs, Judith Torres from Uruguay and Ms. Kay Williams from United Kingdom. We have to acknowledge their efforts and their hard work in this period so that they could facilitate this process and come to this final stage of this preparation. So I would like to inform you that this virtual briefing is outcome of the discussion held at the ICCM 5 Bureau meeting that took place in Geneva on 22nd and 23rd of June 2023. I hope that all of you, the CEE region group that are in the correspondence mailing list, are already aware of the outcomes from this meeting, since my colleague, my co-chair of the region, Magdalena, she already shared the report with you several days after the meeting. So I hope you are aware. But still, it is very good opportunity, and I thank to the co-chairs that they took some additional time for us to share all these outcomes and their past work to share with the group. So the briefing supports preparation of the resumed fourth meeting of the intersessional process, considering the strategic approach and sound management of chemicals and waste beyond 2020, to be held in Bonn, Germany from 23rd to 24th September of 2023. And of course, at the same time, I would like to highlight the main objective of this briefing, which are clarifying to the participants the process for preparing IP co-chairs non-papers to facilitate the achievement of consensus at the resumed fourth meeting, and to give an opportunity to indicate outstanding sticking points for participants from our region. And then to clarify, of course, that the similar briefings are organized also for all other regions, so that for you to be aware that all the regions are engaged in this intersessional process to be finalized as successful as possible. So at this moment, in this phase, I would like to give floor to our co-chairs to give their views and of course their proposals with these non-papers. So either Judith or Kay, I don't know who is ready for taking the floor. Anyway, it's I will give you the floor, Kay.
Yeah, I'll just say hello to everyone. Delighted to be here today, and Judith and I stand ready to explain the process and then answer any questions for clarity about it. But Judith is going to lead you through the slides. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kay. Judith,
okay,
welcome to the CEE region meeting, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Susana. Kay and I attended the Bureau meeting in June, as you said, and we proposed to develop a few new non-papers regarding targets, finance, and capacity building, which were areas that we recognize that need further attention. These non-papers are based on the consolidated documents, and these consolidated documents continue to serve as the basis for discussions at the resumed IP4 meeting. The aim of these non-papers is to bring substantive is not to bring substantive changes to the original text. It means that we thought that
Judith, did we lose the connection with Judith, or Secretariat, can you help?
I can. Should we give some time for Judith to reconnect, and then if not, I'll carry over if she can't, if she's got a bad connection.
Please, Kate.
Okay.
Thank you for your support.
Just wait a minute and see if she can join.
Okay.
Okay, if not, just in the interest of time, yes, apologies that Judith must have internet connection problems. Oh, you're back.
Oh,
do you want to carry on,
yes,
Judith?
yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
You can proceed, yeah.
Power problem, but now I'm back again. So I was saying that these non-papers on targets, finance, and capacity building, the aim is to serve as tools to enhance the existing text. We are trying to remove repetition, to streamline the narrative, identify areas where strategic options might deliver the greatest impact, and consider whether the current targets framework will achieve the strategic objectives and vision. These non-papers are to facilitate the achievement of consensus at our IP 4.3 by offering clear and concise understanding of the context while refining the existing text for improved comprehension and effectiveness. Next slide. The timeline for these consultations ahead of IP4 and ICGM5. We are celebrating these IP co-chairs virtual briefings with all the regions. In early September, we will come back with virtual briefings to present the non-papers and the rationale behind them. And finally, on the 21st and 22nd of September, we have our in-person regional meetings in Germany, Bonn, to continue our discussions and try to address consensus. Next slide. Now, Kay and I are willing to respond your questions that you might have on this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. This was brief and clear, I hope, for the participants. So I would give the floor to any of the participants if in case they have any question or answer from your side, of course. But any question from the region? We have Peter Antipov. The floor is yours. You can put the question to the co-chairs. Peter? Yes. Please unmute first.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Judith for the presentation. From the Russian side, we have three practical questions which are not directly connected to today's presentation, but using this occasion, if possible, we would highly appreciate if maybe not now or the next time you could provide the following. So there are three questions. The first one concerns the applicable rules of procedure which will be used during the adoption of the final document. Because there were certain collisions, whether it's the UNEA rules, whether it's the SIACM rules. So to receive some clarity on that will be highly appreciated. Secondly, in what form will the credentials be accepted during the meeting in Bonn? So do you need to present originals, copies, note verbals, how that will be organized? And the third request, we would like to kindly request to circulate the current presentation, which has been shown today to the member states, if it is also possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. The co-chairs,
Yes.
Judith, answer to the question.
Yes, on the rules of procedure and credentials, I will ask Pierre to answer these two questions. And on the third, of having these slides available for everyone, there's no problem. We can, I think Pierre can post them on the website. So back to you, Susanna.
Thank you, Judith. I think about the credentials, the Secretariat could assist in the answering this question, although it is already shared in on the website. Pierre, may I give you the floor to explain about the credentials?
Yes, all the information is available on the website, on the informations related to registrations and credentials, and we can provide any further details directly with the delegation of Russia if need be.
Okay. Peter, are you satisfied with the response?
Yes, thank you very much, Susanna. If it is kindly possible just to reply what's mentioned on the website and in what form those credentials will be needed, it will be highly appreciated. Thank you.
We will come back directly to Russia on this.
Okay, Pierre. I would now give the floor to my colleague Magdalena from Poland. Magdalena, the floor is yours. Do you have any question?
I don't have a question. I just would like to thank a lot to Judith and Kay for explaining that to all of us. Well, I think that now will be time for us as a region to, after the meeting, to consult about the sticking points. And I'm very happy that you've decided to take that very, very difficult job to move all of us forward and to work on the text. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Magdalena. Any other? We have Claudia Dumitru, our colleague from Romania. Claudia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Susanna. I would also like to congratulate Kay and for all the work that they've done already. I do have a question. In our region, there are some countries that they have like multiple roles, which means that we are also a EU member state. And if the co-chairs are going to present this in the regional meetings, we might find ourselves in a situation that we will have the EU coordination meeting in the same time with the regional meeting. So I'm not sure exactly what is actually the process. So these non-papers, of course, will help us to get forward in the negotiation during ICCM 5. But can you please explain why this will not be available a little bit before the regional meetings in Bonn? Or what is exactly the purpose? I'm not very sure that I understood exactly.
Should I give the floor to Judith or?
Well, I can take that. I don't know
okay.
where Judith is.
Okay,
I can't
okay.
see her unless Judith's still
Yeah, the
there.
floor
Is she
is
gone?
yours. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Claudia, for the question about the non-papers. And this is really why we wanted to have this conversation with all the regions. The reason that we've decided to do non-papers is that when we left Nairobi, and we've been looking at the consolidated document, and we understand we only have 2 days ahead of ICCM 5, we recognize that in some places there are more brackets than there are words. And in some cases, it's very difficult. Even though I'm a native English speaker, I couldn't understand what the intent behind some of the language in those places was. So, as a result of serious deliberation about how we could possibly achieve any consensus document at the end of IP 4.3 that will be fit to translate into 6 languages for ICCM 5, Judith and I came to the conclusion that the only way would be to try and support the consensus building through doing some work intersessionally to help prepare a path forward, if you like, or a possible way forward. So with that in mind, these non-papers will be published on the 11th of August, 6 weeks ahead of IP 4.3. And the reason that we've decided to do that is to make sure that our community, which is multi-stakeholder, has every opportunity to look at what we're trying to do in terms of clarifying the text, and look with the consolidated text, which is the basis of discussion, so that you can come fully prepared to see whether you like what we're proposing or whether you completely don't like what we're proposing. We intend to have virtual briefings in early September ahead of the face-to-face regional briefings. So I can recognize that you may have some conflicts, but I think you should be able to manage those regional EU briefings. I don't know which specific meetings you were considering, but at this stage in the negotiations, I think we're looking to all regions to make sure they reach out with those with whom they feel they've got positions quite far apart and be prepared to come to IP 4.3 with those solutions to create consensus. Judith and I have a role just to try and facilitate that, but ultimately there's still a lot in the text that we need to agree, and we do not have that time available. So I think that's the message that Judith and I are trying to give to people. Please, can you also work? We will try and facilitate as much as we can with some of our thinking. But ultimately, we're in everybody's hands, all participants' hands, to gain consensus at the end of this process, because this is your document, it's your framework, and we just want to try and help people, help you achieve what we believe that you want in terms of the vision, which is a future free from chemical and waste harms.
Thank you, Kay. I think this was clearly explained, and it is more clear what was the reason behind these non-papers, explained by Kay, and of course on behalf of Judith. So I hope that the region works more deeply into what is proposed in the non-papers, maybe there will be additional help for the co-chairs to bring the document to the more clear version. I have Evgeny from IPEN. He is asking for the floor. You have the floor, Evgeny. Please ask.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. Do you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you very much for Judith and Kai for your presentation and for your proposed way forward. Very much appreciated. Basically, I have a question to try to understand your approach because, like, personally, I was more involved into the working group following targets and strategic objectives, and generally it's clear how do we want to tackle this text, but we also have some issues which are kind of cross-cutting. For example, we have an issue of scope of citing, which is being like raised in many parts of the text. For example, whether the scope should include chemicals or waste or like associated waste. So what would be your approach to try to well, to make a way forward regarding the scope, because we definitely expect that this issue will be raised many times, and it's one of perhaps fundamental issues. And my second question also kind of similar regarding the issues of concern and the emerging policy issues, because we didn't really have time to discuss activities under the strategic objectives CEE, which is dealing with issues of concern, and we definitely understand that it's been linked to some other discussions. So what would be your approach in light of this non-papers option to deal with these issues, which are very important for us? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Evgeny. I hope Kay could answer to this question, and then we have Magdalena again asking for the floor.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you very much for your very pertinent questions. The issue of scope, it is one that we haven't directly looked at, aside from in Bucharest. I think there were some conversations that were had in the margins on the scope. It's a difficult one. What the ideal solution would be that people that have an interest and from different regions facilitate their own conversation in this period ahead of IP 4.3 and come up with a proposal. I think that would be the ideal. We know that some are arguing all waste and looking towards language agreed in SDGs. But we know that that is problematic because we may not deal with nuclear waste. So we're not really looking at all waste. We wouldn't deal with that type of waste, for example, or we might not be necessarily thinking about food waste. So we need a conversation. I don't think we've got time to have an in-depth conversation, and there are different ways we can handle it. We can either handle the definition of waste through the activities that we choose to do in the framework. Because if we have to define waste, we may have to define chemicals. And therefore, how do we define chemicals? And definitions in themselves take a very long time to negotiate. It is a problem. I would ask you as individuals and as the region to please propose a way forward to get an agreement on this that would be suitable for all. Ultimately, it's up to participants to get the consensus. And I think we can fully see both sides of the argument. On the issues of concern, there was an informal discussion that talked about the elements that would be needed in the resolutions for transitional arrangements, and it is likely that the issues of concern will come up in those resolutions. So I think you need to stand ready to look at those when they're published, about what the approach will be in terms of addressing the existing issues of concern. And of course, there is maybe, I think the one thing I would say to consider is how the existing text on issue of concern, how does it reflect how you might want to address those issues in the future in terms of the approaches that we have on the table, including the core programs that are being suggested by IMC.
Okay, thank you, Kay. I would now give the floor to Magdalena. Magda?
Thank you very much. I have a question, practical one, which is, I think, at the same proposal for Secretariat, I suppose, rather. In the moment when we have non-papers available, would it be possible to prepare the document which will compare the text which we have right now on the table with what is in the non-papers of co-chairs, because in this way it will be for everybody much easier to follow the discussion. So this is question and proposal at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you,
Very
Magda.
much.
It's very useful proposal. I would give the floor to Kay and give her opinion regarding this.
No, thank you very much, Magda. And yes, we love proposals to solve the issues. We may be able to. I think we haven't finalised what the non-papers will look like. We're talking very closely with the co-facilitators about the format of the non-papers, because there are different issues in this very specific areas that we think need most work, namely the targets, the target framework, and the finance narrative. The issues arising with them are very different. So it's about targets. It's about whether the language is speaking to the community. Is it meaningful? What do they mean, some of the targets? Because the sense of some of the targets is gone. Whereas on the finance side, we have 3.5 pages of narrative, which is really quite a mixture of things. Some of it is background. Some of it is repeating what the integrated approach to finance is. Some of it contains some very interesting ideas and proposals for financing. And some of it is about capacity building. As such, I think we're going to have to look. Oh. Sorry. As such, I think we're going to have to look very closely about how we can, if we're trying to streamline it. I can say already that I know that there are a couple of elements in the finance narrative that we think could potentially sit better as targets, and therefore would like to take it out of the narrative on the finance, which is 3.5 pages, and potentially craft a target around some of that language. So we will do our very best, Magda, to try and facilitate comprehension of the non-papers compared to what we already have. But the consolidated document will remain the basis for negotiation. And I think you'll just have to bear with Judith and I in terms of how these papers develop, in which way we can use them most effectively.
Okay, thank you. Okay. There is another participant asking for the floor. Maybe some question to put. It's the Armenian Women for Health and Healthy Environment representative. Guar, it is your floor, so please.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. I personally was following the group on the financial considerations and the capacity building And indeed, as Kay just mentioned, there are very interesting approaches, practical approaches of how to propose way forward. And just while stressing the importance of new, adequate and predictable and sustainable financing is really very essential to achieve the objectives and the targets of the strategic approach. We believe, and I speak on behalf of IPEN also, that the capacity building clearinghouse mechanism is not going to substitute the lack of funding. And indeed, we think that it's really important to think about the financial mechanism and the new predictable and adequate sustainable financing. So what is your vision? How is it going to be reflected in these non-papers? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. That's one of the key questions, I think, for the whole of ICCM5. Go, absolutely. Judith and I strongly recognize the importance of a financial mechanism to many regions. That is going to be one of the, I think, the aspects that we will continue to negotiate at ICCM5. But Judith and I are working on some ideas. We've had more information about the marketplace idea from ICCA and Iran, which is helping us to try and understand what could we do with that, and how could we work with it. But we've heard many participants very clearly that it's absolutely key. We need to have this sufficient funding to be able to implement the new framework moving forward. And we will try best efforts to come up with some creative solutions to be able to make that happen, and increase the amount of money that is going into the work that we do.
Thank you, Kay. Gohar, I hope you are satisfied with this explanation and the answer. I hope we'll work all together in this issue as well, since it is very important. Of course, the financial considerations are very important for this framework. As far as I know, I see there is no other representative to asking for the floor. So you know that it's a very short meeting. This briefing is arranged only for 1 hour. So I hope that you will agree with me that we have been very efficient and that there were many questions that were raised here, and we used the time as efficient as possible. Again, Claudia is now asking for the floor. I give the floor to Claudia.
Thank you. Just one short comment. It was a recent meeting in Brussels, the usual meetings that we have, and the person who represented Romania there just sent me the message that the European Union is puzzled by the possibility of transforming this non-legally binding instrument in one legally binding instrument, in the sense of financial, let's say, constraints. So they are very open to get forward with this. It's mandatory to have a new instrument or to update the current ones, but they are in a way worried about where the money should come from. So I don't know how to express it elegantly, but indeed, I think it's extremely necessary to find the right wording and the right way to get the money for this process in order to continue or to progress. And I don't know how exactly the negotiations during the Spanish presidency will continue, but we will have a lot of coordination before even IP 4.3. So this could be one of the major issues that I assume that states from European Union will discuss about, and a good proposal or a number of proposals would be a way forward to find the right solution. Thanks.
Yes, it is understandable to raise also this question regarding the source of funding and other arrangements. Can we get any answer regarding this, Kate?
All I can say is that we warmly welcome sort of any way that we can get, I suppose, more informed about how to mobilize the resources. We know that the evaluation of the integrated approach to financing suggested that the private sector needs to be putting much more money in. The private sector have come up with an approach where they believe that they would be able to fund projects. And I think we need to work with private sector to say, okay, fair enough. So, and how much money will you be putting towards these projects, and trying to encourage them to, now they've got a proposal, to fund the proposal. I think the second thing is that we need to look at climate change and nature finance. They've done a lot of work on mobilizing resources in different areas. We have got the concept of the philanthropic funds. There are a number of philanthropic funds, and they are offering large sums of money to develop things that could be useful for our areas, such as artificial intelligence, which could be incredibly useful for analyzing the complex chemical data that we have to undertake to inform our regulatory decision making. So I think it's about understanding the opportunities and the funds that we have out there. So there's one aspect. So we need to learn how to tap into the different sources of money for capacity building. But we also know that industry has to change and industry has to transform. And so I think part of the targets and what we're trying to work with from some of the outputs of an IMC workshop is how can we encourage investors to only be putting their money behind those companies that are truly managing chemicals and waste in a safe and sustainable way. And they're only putting products on that don't have these very hazardous chemicals in them. So that we're creating a whole economy that's going to prevent the extremely harmful and hazardous substances from reaching the market. So I think there is two aspects to that financial piece, and I think we need to work with both.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other views, questions? We have Pierre from the Secretariat. Pierre, you have the floor.
A very brief information, Susanna, that informations related to the credentials have been posted on the chat.
Yes.
Both rules of procedures related information as well as practical information for our upcoming meeting in this regard. And also to mention that it is expected that it will be the rules of procedures of ICCM that will apply for our upcoming ICCM 5.
Yes, thank you for that, Secretariat, to Pierre and Rafał as well, for providing this clarification and all the information that were asked by the Russian delegation representative. If there are no other questions, I would like to thank the co-chairs for sparing their time with the region. Of course, to all the representatives that joined the meeting. I hope that we will have the opportunity to receive the non-papers on time, so that we have sufficient time to go through the non-papers, and as Magdalena proposed, maybe to make some comparative document with which we can recognize the differences and of course the improvements towards the clearing the text if possible. As Kay mentioned, I would like to clarify or maybe to repeat about the next virtual briefing that is announced in September, early September, before the text is, the non-papers are ready, or after they are ready? After they are ready. Okay. I'm reading from the lips. Okay.
Yeah, the non-papers, we aim to have them out around the 11th of August.
Okay, then yeah, you're right. Yeah. So in September we can already review the non-papers and work on it more deeply. If there is no other questions or suggestions by the representatives and the secretariat, I would like to thank all of you and to hoping that we will have a good summer period, but also busy and working period prior to the ICCM 5. I hope we'll see each other, all of you in person in that occasion. So looking forward to our next communication. Please follow our emails, mine and Magdalena's, whatever we share with you. We appreciate if you read the emails and everything what is shared, because all the inputs from your side is appreciated and really very worthy for this process. So again, thank you, Kay, thank you, Judith, thank you, Pierre, and all the others from the Secretariat, and my colleague Magdalena, and all the others. So have a good afternoon, and see you in some other briefing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and everyone have a good summer. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Bye bye.
To all of you.
All the
Thank you.
best.
Bye-bye.
Bye.